I'm David Madore. We're continuing for Clark County today with Commander Larry Patella here. So Larry, you were telling us that you were going from port to port for 7 months, and you actually had your wives on board, which is a unique experience.
Yeah, very unique.
And everybody liked that idea. Good cooking.
Yeah, it got me in trouble one place, but I managed to get out of it with an admiral who was very much disliked having women on board ships. So, and from there I went to the USS Duluth, and I was the executive officer there, and we took part in the evacuation of Vietnam. And we stayed out there in about 80 miles off the coast, and we took thousands of people.
The Duluth. That's not, is that this picture?
No, I don't have a picture of Duluth.
Okay.
But
All right, so that's, what size ship was that?
It's bigger, it's just a little bit bigger than the next one we're going to look at. It's what we called an LPD, which is a landing ship platform.
How many people could it carry?
Oh, about 1,000.
1,000 people, and you're the commander of this ship?
I was the executive officer on that.
Executive officer, okay.
And we evacuated probably about 3,500 people from Vietnam.
And that was at wrapping up the war?
Wrapping up the war.
Is that why you're evacuating?
Yeah,
you're pulling the troops out? The people that you're evacuating were troops?
No, they were civilians.
Oh, okay.
Mostly civilians.
And they would ferry them via helicopter?
They came out in helicopters, boats, life rafts, anything they could. And lost a lot of people out there, but and we took them after we got them all on board. We took them to Subic Bay in the Philippines, and we left them off, and we dropped them off there, and then I don't know what the government did with them after that, but I'm sure a lot of them came to the United States, or a lot of them went to Guam and other places, but so that was a very exciting, but also very sad, because there was a lot of people that were just in dire straits.
You mean that wanted to leave?
Well, they were wanting to leave Vietnam, and we had such things as fixed wings aircraft trying to land alongside the ship in the water, because they were just so trying to get out of South Vietnam.
So it was an emergency situation. There was little time. People were fleeing. You're trying to get. It was almost like a rescue operation.
Right. It was a rescue operation, and then from there, I went to the Mount Vernon, which is that big photograph there.
Okay. Now I can bring out your big photograph.
Yeah, bring that big photograph out there. They went to the Mount Vernon, and I became the commanding officer of that ship there.
All right.
And the difference between that ship and the previous one was this carried more equipment and less troops, and the other one, the Duluth, carried more troops and less equipment.
About how long is that ship?
This ship here is about 600 feet long, and it's about 80 foot width beam, and probably 15,000 tons.
Wow, so that's 2 football fields long, and this is a smaller one than the rescue ship that you were
The rescue ship was a little bit bigger than this one. Oh, anyway, but
and what was your position on this ship again?
On this one here, I was a commanding officer of this one.
Okay. And did you find that challenging? You feel like to be given the command of a ship, because that's a lot of responsibility.
It's a lot. You've got thousands of, hundreds of lives in your hand.
And you felt like you could handle that?
Oh yes, yeah.
And you rose to you felt like the challenge. You enjoyed the serving that way.
I enjoyed serving that way, and that's one of the things I liked about the Navy, was that you could become a commanding officer of ship, and you follow the rules and regulations. You get to make all the decisions, and as long as you keep the boss informed of what you're doing, and don't violate any basic rules or regulations, you're like the letter I got from the Chief of Naval Operations said. You're allowed to lose your own ingenuity. You're allowed to do what you think is best, and just tell the boss what we don't.
So you had a lot of freedom, a lot of autonomy. you basically were the commander of the ship, and you had the basic mission and the guidelines to follow, but you had to be a decision maker to be able to call the shots and get the job done.
Right.
And so what we have here, this is from Admiral Moore. Am I saying that correctly?
Right.
And he basically, I think it's too long for me to read, but he goes on. I read it before we started this interview here, and he's very complimentary to you. And he says he doesn't quite often get letters that come all the way to his desk, but you rose to the occasion. So you got their attention. It was good to see that they appreciated you, that you were given the responsibility that you were able to handle. How long were you in the Navy in total?
31 years.
31 years.
31
now,
years.
Can't you retire after 20?
Yeah, well, you can retire after 20.
And why did you stay longer?
Because I just really thoroughly enjoyed being in the Navy. I spent 25 of those 31 years at sea on board ships.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You still feel the sea rocking under your...
No, not really, but with my opinion, if you're going to be in the Navy, then you need to be a ship driver.
That's the top job. That's the top gun of the Navy.
I don't think there's any job in the United States that's, or any place that's better than being a commanding officer of a Navy ship.
So during that time, was there any particular stories where you feel like this one really stands out? Some experience that you had that you want to tell us about?
Well, there are.
Pick one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Was there a time when the ship ever got attacked?
Oh yeah, we came under. Well, yeah, we one time in Vietnam we were bracketed with mortar rounds and.
Bracketed. What does that mean?
I mean, they were falling all around us. You know,
okay.
They hadn't hit us yet, and they were falling all around us. And unfortunately, I always kept the ship in a position that we could move in a moment's notice, and so I kept the engines running. And so, as soon as the first round landed, we got the ship ready to get underway, pulled up the anchor, and just start moving. And then we became a moving target. Fortunately, we didn't get hit.
That was good. So in order for them to actually send mortars out there, which are basically, those are they're not self-propelled. They're fired from a large cannon.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, from the riverbank.
And when they get out there, then they explode like a bomb. Like
right, yeah. If they hit you, they would explode you.
And that would be quite deadly.
Right. Yeah. So.
And they didn't hit you, but they must have had you in their sights in order to.
Oh yeah, yeah.
With binoculars or something.
Oh yeah.
And aim at you and correct each time they see something. So.
Yeah, and we had not a whole lot, but we had small arm fire. You know, with.
They would aim at you from shore.
From shore, you know, and they punched holes in the side of the ship.
Okay, you didn't encounter any submarines or any other vessels.
These
this
were
is
up
a
in
land.
The rivers there are just similar to what the Columbia River is like. You know, they're about that wide, and there's about 5 rivers down there, and
so they could potentially still hit you even with small small rounds from shore.
Yeah, they hit us with some small rounds, but fortunately, no, we only had we had one day we had one fatal casualty where a sniper shot one of our people through the head.
Really, from shore? From shore. Onto your ship.
So, but anyway, but all in all, it and we did a lot of good over there. We would one of the things that I did that was really that I really liked. We had the families of our sailors would send us clothes and toys and goodies and so forth, and we'd go up and down the rivers, and during lulls in action, we would go over into the villages and give the people clothes and toys, children toys, and we would do what we called med caps. We would take one of our medical people, and he would go there and he'd give people shots.
Is this North Vietnam or
South Vietnam? Yeah.
Okay, so
we give people shots, and so.
So that must have been some satisfying to be able to do.
No,
it
was very, very satisfying, and you know, you hear one of the stories that I like to tell is, you hear sometimes how how cruel, you know, some of our sailors and soldiers and troops are and whatnot. And I'm here to tell everybody that they're wonderful people. One time in the Vietnam waters, we had what we called a Chu Hoi. It was a North Vietnamese person that wanted to surrender, and he was approaching us, my ship, in a sampan, and I told my gunner to fire some shots in his direction so he wouldn't come any closer. So we did, and he basically stopped. I put a boat in the water with a young officer and some riflemen and of course the boat operators, and told them to go out there and you know, capture that person and bring him back to the ship. And I also told him, I said, these people sometimes booby trap themselves, so if he does anything out of the ordinary, shoot him. So don't take any chances of him blowing you up and him up and everything. So anyway, so our boat goes out there, and our boat's much bigger than his little sampan, and as we turn to come alongside his sampan, well, of course, we create a wave action, and it makes his boat rock. And so when his boat rocks, his arms come down, and I'm watching through my binoculars, and his arms come down, and it maybe looked like he could have been reaching for something, I don't know, and you know, and so what did my young fellows do? They laid their weapons down on the engine cover on our boat and went to help this guy to keep him from falling. And the thing of it is that our young people, that their immediate response or their immediate action was
shoot him.
No, not to shoot him. But
well, what I mean to say is that I was expecting that the natural thing, self-protection, would be to shoot him because he reached down to detonate something. Yeah. But instead, they responded with some compassion.
Yeah, they responded with compassion, and that's, you know, and that's what our 99% of our young people are that way. You know, and they're not what some other people depict them as being, you know, bad guys and whatnot.
So even knowing that there was a threat there, even though he could have been booby trapped, even though his hands were going down to be able to, that could be a dangerous situation. Still, their humanity to humanity came through, helped him, brought him safely aboard.
Right. And
because of their character.
So you know, our young men and women that serve in the military are just wonderful people, and you know, and I would say in all my 31 years in experience with them, and I always tell my wife I raised thousands of teenagers, and they're just wonderful, caring people, and you know, and they've got a job to do, and they do it. And
in other words, a lot of the young men, I assume, did they have young women serving back then?
No, we did not. We didn't have women on ships in those days.
Okay, so basically, each time you were in command, it was all those were young men serving under your command. Right. They're young, and so you raised thousands of teenagers. They're still growing up, and so they look to you for leadership.
Right. Yeah, anyway, but yeah, it was a very, you know, I can't think of anything I would have done with that part of my life than being in the Navy. I mean, it was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done.
Do you still stay in touch with some of those people?
Oh yes, I still stay in touch with them. I go to ships reunions, and not too long ago I went to a ship's reunion with hadn't seen some of the fellas in 50 years, and you know, and they.
And you're still friends?
Oh yeah, we're still friends, and we
How do you address each other? They think of you as commander, or they think of you as Larry?
Some of them were, I was enlisted with them, so you know, and so.
So depending on where you were in their history.
And they don't care if I was a commander. They, you know, we were just friends, so, and we're still friends.
Right. So you're. I want to recognize your service to our country. So when I see you, I say, hey, Commander. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, you still have other people that do that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Even my wife does that sometimes.
You don't say that to her.
Oh, so
Well, very good. We're at another 15-minute increment.